Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Intensive Treatment Podcast, your number one spot for anything that relates to the Arkham universe in any way. So me and Swifty here were having a chat, and we were just kind of messing around. He was playing Arkham Asylum, and I forget what I was doing, but anyway, we started thinking about villains that we got hints towards, and maybe some references to via Riddler and stuff, and we kind of just pondered like, hey, what if we actually saw those villains? So that's what we're going to talk about
Yeah.
today. We're just going to go through the extensive rogues gallery and talk about some characters and supervillains that we would have loved to see in any capacity, whether it be like a main villain or whatever. So
Yeah.
So do you want to start us off with a character that you would have loved to
Yeah.
see?
So from the very get-go in Arkham Asylum, I think he was teased, and in Arkham City, unfortunately, they had a huge open door and they didn't use him. And I'm talking about Hugo Strange, guys. Hugo should have been used. He never was used. Yeah, it's my first pick.
Man, could you imagine if he was the one who was in charge of Arkham City?
I know.
Crazy, right?
But it was Ray Charles. No. So first off, I want to start with Maxi Zeus, who was teased extensively through. I don't remember if he was teased in Arkham Knight, but I know for sure he was teased in Asylum and City. Maybe Origins, but I don't remember. But
yeah, I can't recall a Knight, but I know, for a fact he definitely had some major references in the first 2 games or so.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if they ever had a plan to use him in their kind of trilogy capping game, which ended up being Arkham Knight. Why tease him that much and just never use him? It seems like a waste. They had a whole club dedicated to him in City, and a whole cell in Asylum. So he was always someone I wanted to see, especially, obviously, you and I grew up with the animated series, and he was in a really fun episode, which introduced me to the character after I had played Asylum when I was a kid. That was how I heard about him, and then I found out he was in BTAS. So that was my introduction to Maxi Zeus, and I thought he was a really cool character and super underutilized in the Arkham games. But what do you think about Maxi Zeus? Is he someone you would have wanted to see?
Yeah, Maxi Zeus would have been interesting. Like having a side mission where you'd like infiltrate the club or whatever. Like maybe some murders would happen. Like you got to solve clues, and it all leads to fighting Maxi Zeus and stuff like that. I think that would have been really neat.
He just leaves a bunch of Greek food and philosophy books around at his murder scenes.
Yeah, it's just like, why is this plate of Greek food here?
Why is there a bunch of feta cheese?
But yeah, Maxi Zeus, I've always he's always been an interesting character just because he's just so different from everybody else. I mean, the whole Batman rogues gallery, you've got like gangsters and clowns and clay people, crocodile men, but then it's just like you got a guy who thinks he's a Greek god, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, Asylum was always like my gateway into the larger Batman world, like because of the Riddler stuff. I got to learn about so many characters, and
I agree.
Yeah, seeing those references in like Arkham City and stuff, that there was a part of me that was like, man, he could probably make an appearance at some point, maybe in like an origin sequel or something like that, like if they ever got around to it. But they never did for whatever reason.
Yeah. Maxi Zeus would have been awesome. I would have loved to see him. What about you? Who's somebody that you would have wanted to have Rocksteady shoehorn into the Arkham trilogy? Because we all know that they don't know what they're doing.
So these two, they're grouped together, have been referenced extensively across the games, but like we've seen sort of an appearance by one of them. But I would have loved to see them. I would have loved to see them together, like show up at some point. Scarface and the ventriloquist.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been great. We were just actually Marvel and I were just talking about this the other day. What is it about them? Is it? I mean, what was your introduction to? Like, was it BTAS or was it this game?
For me, it was BTAS is where I first learned about them. Like it was very vague memories, but I remember just seeing, this wimpy guy with a puppet, and that puppet's holding a gun, and like, okay, that's cool. And it wasn't until I started playing the Arkham games where I kind of learned more about the lore and stuff of these characters, and I'm like, it'd be interesting for like a game where, say, like there was a big turf war going on between certain factions, kind of like what they did in Arkham City, but more on a wider scale. Like you could have had Black Mass, Scarface, like a whole thing of him. What always made Scarface cool is that like it was the puppet who was pulling the strings of its of its controller. Like I always found that interesting, where it's just like, even though it's not a living puppet, like it's not alive or anything, it's not a fucking Chucky doll or whatever, or it's possessed. It was just this guy controlling a puppet, and he was crazy enough to, be taking orders from this wooden doll. And it made that wooden doll so much more intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah, they are someone I always wanted to see. That's a really interesting idea too, about having like a turf war in one of the games and having different factions. I feel like throughout the games, it was always the same factions from City all the way to Night. It was always Penguin and Two-Face
and Joker.
And even in Night, they replaced Joker with Harley Quinn. So it's the same kind of thing. And then with Origins, it was, they had Black Mask Men and they had Penguin. So it's like it was just never really diverse. I think they could have really branched out with having something like that, especially Night. I think it would have worked well. Can you imagine each island being controlled by a group of thugs?
Yeah.
Kind of cool. So next up on my list is also a group of people. It's two people. And they were only alluded to, I believe, in one of the games. And that is Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I love these characters. I was introduced to them in Asylum from the character bios. And they always seem like a group of villains that were, for one, should have been utilized and weren't, but two, were much more interesting than the standard Batman villain. That was what was great about those character bios, is there were so many villains that were like out of left field. And they were no exception. I mean, I saw these two little midgets with guns, and I was like, oh, yep, I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have loved to see them, because, again, they're oddball villains, and I feel like that was one of Arkham's crutches, was that it didn't use enough weird villains, and they kind of stuck to the whole, well, these guys are popular, so we're just going to keep using them over and over and over again. In my point of view, I got tired of that really quickly. So what about you?
I think for me, like if I were to have them in the games, they could be really good side mission material.
Right.
And it could be an interesting boss fight too, having to fight two people at once, which I don't think the Arkham games have really done before.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it'd be interesting to kind of have a 2-on-1 scenario and see how that would play out. But I mean, my connections to those characters are less apparent than yours, but I think, they would have been really cool to see at some point.
I mean, there's a slew of them in Asylum for me that I think I would have loved to see, but they are like, what's his name? Is it Humpty Dumpty or Humphrey Dumpty?
I think it's
Humpty Dumpty.
It's Humpty Dumpty. I think his name is Humphrey, though. Like his first name.
Yeah, okay, that's
Humphrey Dumpler. I think that's it.
Humphrey Dumpler.
Yeah.
Humphrey, take a dump in my toilet, in my skibbity toilet. But yeah, he's another one that I would have loved to see. I can't really say much on him, but even these villains that I'm pointing out to, they don't all have to be, a mission or a main villain, but they could even just be like in the game somewhere. GCPD lockup or something. I don't know. It could have been anything. I would have just loved to see that they exist and were present in the universe. Because I feel like for me, by the time night comes around, it feels super disconnected from Asylum. That you're kind of in this new little world. So yeah, that's just me. But who's next on your amazing list?
So my next pick is someone who was done very dirty in these games. He had a riddle in Asylum that, well, in all of his subsequent mentions, he's always been dead or been killed. Killer Moth.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, Asylum, he was a skeleton on the wall. And in Night, in the Red Hood DLC, it's mentioned that Jason guns down Killer Moth, which I always thought was kind of just a shame.
Yeah. He would have been a really fun boss battle.
Yeah. He was always a character that, like, could have, to me, always had potential as, like, the main villain in, like, a side game. Like, if they ever decided to make character-specific games, like, imagine if they made, like, a Batgirl origin game and having him as the kind of main antagonist.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, yeah, he's always just been done so dirty in these games. I think he also had a reference in Arkham City, which I'm kind of forgetting about. Also, too, like, his canonicity is, like, all over the place. He's either a skeleton or he's dead. In Suicide Squad, they mention like if you stray too far from the mission and get your head blown off, Amanda Waller would just be like, "Yeah, bring in Killer Moth." So, but, so I'd always like. I'm interested to see at some point, like, them try to adapt that character for the Arkhamverse. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he would have been. You could have had a really cool boss, but also you could have had. I think Killer Moth, especially in Arkham, could have had utilized some really cool horror elements. You could have done some really cool stuff with that character. So yeah, it's a shame. Next up is sort of. It's hard to describe how I'm going to fit this in because, on one hand, he's not completely a villain. It's kind of 2 in 1, and you'll get what I'm saying in a second. But this is Amadeus Arkham and Mad Dog, particularly Mad Dog. I don't know how they would have done this. Maybe like some weird like side mission. I have no idea. All I know is I would have loved to see Arkham Asylum in the early 1900s back then. I don't know. It's like a weird like wish that I had that could have been done. But I would have loved to see Mad Dog in some way, shape, or form. I know that AJ was talking about how it would have been really interesting if they sort of went back to Asylum in Arkham Knight and delved into the supernatural side of that whole storyline. And kind of Amadeus Arkham had like a cult. I think that would have been really cool. And that would have opened the door to do a lot of that stuff. So some of it's wishful thinking, but part of it, I think, is merited with a little bit of truth that we could have gotten something like that. But yeah, I just love the Arkham Asylum comic, which Marvel has not read. So get moving.
I did buy it. I did buy it on Free Comic Book Day. So
he bought it on Free Comic Book Day for $40. What a goat! He said Free Comic Book Day. I'm a spender.
Let me spend over $100 on Batman books.
But yes, I would have loved to see Mad Dog and Amadeus Arkham in sort of a villain role.
So another villain I had in mind, is definitely I could see as like side mission material. And it could be a really good spin, like if they ever decided to make like a spin-off game with a different character, have it be kind of a change of pace from another villain that we're aware of. My pick is Cluemaster. I think he could be like the antithesis of Riddler, where it's just like you already know where he is and you just go take him out. Like he's basically joke Riddler. I'm at the cathedral, Batman. Like,
I think it would be funny if they use Cluemaster in such a way to where Riddler and him are kind of like rivals at that time.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get both of them, and you kind of hear them over intercoms being like, "You can't do this. I'm Batman's biggest villain." No, I'm Batman's biggest villain. I think that would have been great.
Double have like take down both of them. Such not even close on my radar.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I never even thought about him. Cluemaster's he would have been a really good addition to the Arkham games.
Yeah. So what's next?
I was gonna say this is kind of a joke villain, but I would have loved to see him as at least sort of like a funny side mission or just a run-in situation. That is
damn it. Okay, I was gonna save that. Like I was gonna save that for the end. It's like the greatest villain of all time.
Oh,
Condiment King. You fucked it.
Damn it. Hold on. Rewind. Okay, so my next villain is not who you think it is, ladies and gentlemen. My next villain is actually...
Just tell everybody why it's Condiment King and we'll move on.
Okay, so Condiment King would have been really fun. Again, it probably would have been like a joke side mission, or even if it was like a run-in sort of like Man-Bat, and he just pops out of nowhere, and then you can just take him down after he shoots you with ketchup and mustard and relish. Would have been really funny. And just to know that these characters exist. So yeah, I would have liked to see Condiment King. I think it would have been real fun. Would have added a nice pace.
I see Condiment King as like the electrocutioner boss, where it's just like you take him out in one hit.
Exactly. It's like nobody really cares if he has a good boss fight as long as he's there to make you laugh in like a otherwise very serious game. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Next I'm gonna go Clock King.
How would you think they would have utilized him in that? Liked it.
He's definitely side mission material. I don't see him as more
for sure.
Like I don't see him more as like a main villain sort of deal, but he could have been a really good like side mission. And it'd be interesting to see what they do, like involving time and whatnot. Like maybe like he predicts your every move. So you got to kind of think outside the box in order to beat him and stuff like that. Like it'd be literally fighting yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
You're just fighting Arkham Batman fighting Arkham Batman.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I never thought about Clock King, but now thinking about it, I think that would have been great.
Yeah.
Would you have an ideal game that you would have liked to see him be introduced in as a side mission?
Maybe Night. Night would have been interesting.
I think it would have worked a lot better at that point because of all the gameplay options you have at that point. But
I just see him as just kind of like an outsider, like all the supervillains are coming together, trying to stop the Bat, and then you got Clock King being like, "I'll take him out on my own, thank you."
Yeah. So the next guy I have on my list is, I don't always like to count him as a villain, but I think they could have used him in a sort of going up against Batman rivalry and maybe Arkham Knight. And I would have loved to see Etrigan. I think it would have been great to dive into the more fantasy element of DC in the Arkham games, especially because they did it so heavily in Suicide Squad. I think Etrigan would have been a lot of fun to go up against.
That'd be cool, yeah. Like, you're right. Like, we kind of went into the more sci-fi type part of the DC universe with aliens and whatnot. But I think, yes, getting into that kind of supernatural element would be really cool.
Yeah. And I mean, you could even sort of dive into a little bit, maybe even prelude his friendship with Etrigan.
It could be a scenario where it's just like, you hear Alfred coming on the radio being like, there's a demon flying around causing mayhem and stuff. And then you get into a scuffle, and then it turns out like you're fighting against like Clarion, I think his name is. Like it turns out he's the one kind of puppeteering, pulling the strings sort of deal. So the two of you have to team up against him. It'd be kind of like the Azrael side mission where it's just like there might be some resistance, but at the end like you could like find another ally and whatnot. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see Etrigan. Who's next for you?
Kite Man.
Oh yeah. Would he be more of a... No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it'd be fun as like, you know, the Firefly side mission where you gotta kind of chase him around in the Batmobile. I think it'd be fun for Kite Man if you have to glide your way after him.
Yeah, man. I think it would have been cool too they could have used, speaking of Firefly, the mechanic where you grapple onto his foot. And could you imagine just being kite rided along Gotham and trying to climb up a grapple hook to get to him? That would have been awesome. Crashing through buildings and breaking windows. That would have been really fun.
But yeah, I think up until recently, Kite Man has just always been like beforehand. It's just like Kite Man. What the fuck? Yeah. Get this shit out of my sight. And then like just recently with the War Jokes and Riddles and the Harley Quinn cartoon and stuff, like he has some potential to, you know, have a spotlight shine in him in the Arkham games. Whether you want to make him, you know, not serious or you want to do kind of like a different spin on that would be interesting.
So for me up next, I've got another weird one, but I think they could have used him really well. Polka Dot Man.
Yeah.
I think with his revamped nature in the Suicide Squad, James Gunn Suicide Squad, I think people would at this point maybe in 2024 be a little bit more interested in Polka Dot Man. But I think at the time too, it would have been fun because you'd be getting people who are strictly Arkham fans playing the games, seeing a villain like this, and that goes with a lot of these villains. And then you get hardcore DC fans really happy with seeing villains like that. I think Polka Dot Man has a lot of potential, and he's been a Batman villain for a long time. So that would have been a lot of fun to see. I don't know exactly what they could do with him. I mean, you could just have him throwing polka dots at your ass.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They could have done something. Rocksteady was good at doing that. They could have had like a really super Silver Age comic style side mission with him, sort of campy. I don't know. They could have done a lot with it.
Right. Yeah. So one of my last ideas, because I'm literally running out as we're talking. I'm sure there's probably a ton more that we can name off, but it'd be a really like obscure pick. But the 10-eyed man. I just want to see how they'd pull that off.
That's a really interesting one. I never would have thought of that. I would love to see how they pull that off.
Yeah. I think it'd just be neat to see like a realistic version of what that would look like in a video game. Having those tiny eyeballs on his fingers, like
that would be scary.
Yeah.
I think they would be able to do that really well though, because I mean obviously Rocksteady is known for doing weird stuff like that in Arkham.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what you would do with him, but I just want to see those fingers, man.
Oh god. To just have Batman poke all his eyes and be like, all right, you're taking you to the GCPD.
Yeah. Just poke his eyes out. You know how you beat him? Clap his hands together.
Put on 10-Eyed Man's favorite rock song. He's just like, yeah, starts clapping. Ah! No.
Yeah. So what's another pick you have?
I think I'm nearing my final picks too. Like you said, we could list off Batman villains forever. Because at that point, you know, they would all be cool to have seen in Arkham games, especially the more weird ones. I think this next one is not a weird one. It's someone that everybody wants or wanted. I think you know exactly who I'm talking about. We've talked about him before on this channel, but that is Prometheus himself.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Come close. He's come very, very close. but
he was alluded to in Asylum with a riddle. I love the design that they used for Prometheus too.
Yeah,
would have been so cool to see.
I
think they have,
design.
and I think they have a picture. I think they were going to use that design in the Season of Infamy because I think you can see like one of the head models of Prometheus from like him talking to you on the intercoms.
Yeah,
So,
I know that he was going to be in the Season of Infamy. I don't know how far along they got.
Right.
But yeah, it was an idea that like he was going to show up for the Season of Infamy, and I would have loved to see him because it's just like it's essentially fighting a mirrored version of Batman. And
Right.
how does that not sound cool to anybody?
I think they missed a huge opportunity though with even considering him for the Season of Infamy because I think he could have potentially been the villain of Arkham Knight, working with Scarecrow. I think it would have been way better than what we got. And Prometheus could have been the Arkham Knight, but they could have just used him as Prometheus instead of having that alter ego.
Yeah, I'd rather just have him as Prometheus proper instead of being like, hey, we're just gonna put you in this like metallic Iron Man suit, and then when you take the mask off, it's like, oh, it's me, Batman, Prometheus. It's like, who?
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, well, I have no idea who you are, and I will protest until we get the Prometheus cut. Hashtag release the Prometheus cut.
The Prometheus cut.
They'll just make a new game. That could be a cool idea for an Arkham Origins sequel. Just saying.
Batman Arkham Prometheus. Let's go.
That's a dope name too. That's a cool ass name.
Everyone protest Batman Arkham Prometheus.
Wow.
Let's make it happen.
I think, yeah, hell yeah. Roger Craig Smith, protest, talk to WB. Let's do it. I think that's going to be all of my list. I don't really have many to say, but do you have any more that you want to add?
No, I literally just like as we were continuing on, I was like slowly losing steam of
it's like who are we gonna do next? Damn.
But one question I did want to ask you before we finished up: what's a character that you wish in the Arkham games was utilized less, whether it's a main villain or like a side character and stuff?
Yeah, I want to say any of that like trilogy of villains that were introduced in City, so Two-Face, Penguin, or Riddler. But I feel like Riddler's such an obvious answer. I think any logical person would say Riddler. So yeah, any one of those. I think that they just took up too much space, especially when it came to Night. In City, it was fine because they were just introduced for the first time. But Night, they just were like, all right, remember those guys we had in Arkham City that you basically fought through the whole game? Yeah, we're going to make you do that again. Plus, there's a Batmobile involved.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those would be the ones I would pick.
A pick for me would probably be like maybe Zaz or something. And that's mostly coming from my disdain of his side mission in Arkham City. So
yeah, it's so terrible. I think if they could have redeemed themselves with an actual good murder mystery side mission in Night, and they just didn't do it.
He was in the game.
He
was almost in the game as a side mission, and there are some files that people have recovered where it's like, you know, you're taking him back to like the GCPD and stuff, pre and post like secret identity reveal, which is pretty neat. But yeah, he's always one of those characters which like I didn't mind him. Like it was cool being introduced to him in Asylum. Yeah. And then when City rolled around, he just wore out his welcome, like a lot. So
I think it would have been cool if in City they had gone the route of just having creepy telephone calls with Zaz.
Yeah.
Like there's no side mission involved. It's just you pick up the phone and it's like a little bit of an Easter egg every time.
Hello, Batman.
Riddle me this. I killed the Riddler. I would have been like, hell yeah.
It seems you picked up from my phone sex hotline. It's like, oh, get me out of here.
What would that be called? You gotta think of a name for Zaz's Hotline Bling.
Just as a counter question, what is a character you wish they utilized more?
Yeah.
My pick would be Calendar Man.
I was just gonna say that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, super underutilized. We never got a side mission with him.
No.
But we saw him in almost every game, and we never saw him in his classic Calendar Man getup. There's always a jumpsuit.
Yeah. Even in Origins, fucking like 2-second cameo with him in his jumpsuit.
So stupid because the entire beginning of the game is like they're talking about Calendar Man the entire time.
Yeah.
And then he's just not even in the game.
And they did nothing with him. So
yep.
No.
He is a traitor. Ah.
But
guys, on that note, we're gonna wrap things up here with this wishful villain list of underutilized villains. But now, a quick word from our sponsors. Marvel, what do you have coming up that we should be excited for?
I'm gonna try and record my Q&A soon for my 250 subscriber special. So hopefully I can get it out like this week. I'm gonna try to anyway. And also I might have another video coming. I might have a first impressions coming on Wednesday for a certain movie about apes. So
yeah. I'm gonna beat you to it.
So yeah, stay tuned. Wait, what?
When are you seeing it?
I was thinking of going like, I don't know, maybe later today, like maybe tonight even. We'll see.
Because I'm going to see it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just saying. So we'll be seeing it around the same time. But yeah, so guys, go check out his channel. Go subscribe. We're trying to get him to 300, ladies and gentlemen. Get him to 300. He's really close. So let's
just another 40 subscribers to go.
So let's get him to 300. Check out his latest videos. Remember to watch Ultragrap's DC Universe Online video. It is the greatest video ever made. Please get it to 78K views so he can never take it down.
Yes.
But yeah, go check out Marvel's channel. I'm not really working on anything, but I think I'm also going to do a apes video. So yeah, maybe that'll happen. But this video will be coming out later this week, so you'll see it on our channel at some point. But check out our latest video that came out the other day. It was an intensive treatment mod video that Ultragraph was a part of. So go check that out. Guys, we will see you in the next one. Let us know in the comments section below what villains you would have liked to see and how you wish Rocksteady utilized them. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and we will see you all in the next one. Stay locked up.